This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Malwarebytes. Whether you use a PC, a Mac, or a mobile device, Malwarebytes Premium is the company's strongest protection ever. It fights threats that traditional antivirus software can't stop, plus it actively blocks threats like worms, rogues, dialers, trojans, spyware, and a whole lot more. It allows you to use your computer and mobile devices with confidence and peace of mind. To learn more and to get a special price, you can go to f5live.tv/malwarebytes. This is going to be Avram's favorite topic of the night, and I say that with complete sarcasm. We've talked a lot about AI. Definitely go back and check out some of our past Pilch Point episodes, talking about some of the dangers to both consumers and to publishers and creators around AI. But one of the things that has kept that danger at bay has been the fact that things like ChatGPT, the information is older. The information that it has, that it draws on, is, cordoned off to a time period. After that time period, it doesn't really gain new information. And so, writing about modern content, speaking of digital assistants earlier on, writing, which is not really what they do, about breaking news and things like that, has not been effective or really possible because they don't know about it. That might be about to come to an end. ChatGPT has a thing coming called GPT-Bot, which is their version of a web crawler. Now, web crawler is what generally the search engines use to go crawl the internet, to get information, to index, to bring search results to you. ChatGPT now has one, and it sounds like it's going to be rolling out soon if it's not already out there running, and publishers are panicking. Understandably, I am one of them, about what to do about this. There's a couple of ways to go. One, let it happen. It's going to happen, let it happen. Two is to figure out a way to block the bot from accessing your website. Then there's the way that I'm leaning, which is to sabotage it a little bit, and feed it weird data. See if I can affect the results a little bit. But that's me. So I don't know which way people are going, but OpenAI that runs ChatGPT did put out the information about the bot, about the web crawler, and that includes the user agent string that it will be using, which is how publishers are going to try and defend themselves against this. So, definitely an interesting one, Avram.
So, I just on Friday published an article about, now primarily I was talking about Google because what Google is doing is of greater concern to me, and I think should be of greater concern to publishers than what OpenAI is doing. But the principles of the problem are the same. Now, I guess I should say, why am I more concerned about Google than OpenAI? Because OpenAI is actually getting more attention for what it's doing, right? ChatGPT was the original
Newsmaker.
source that newsmaker here. But what we're really talking about is the problem for anyone who publishes anything, right? Like, let's not just say it's media companies. Let's say it's anyone who publishes anything on the internet. You go and you write a forum post.
Yep.
You can answer somebody's question on Stack Overflow or whatever. Like, all of those things are being sucked up by these AIs and spat out in the voice of the AI, so that you no longer get credit or traffic or anything for what you do. So even if you are writing, answers to people on Quora, just because you're a nice person out of the kindness of your heart, going and answering people's questions, if nobody sees what you wrote, but it's just being used to feed an AI to that is designed to prevent people from reading your words, like why would you do it?
Yeah.
Like why would you do it? Um, I mean, I've had some people say, "Oh, I don't publish things on a forum or whatever to be famous." Yeah, but I mean, like, if everything's being just sucked up and spat out by an AI, like, why would you live just to do? Why would you give your labor either for free or for trying to make a profit if it's just going to be sucked up by a bot? And Google is a bigger immediate threat to anybody who publishes things because Google is where 91 to 94% of web searches take place.
Yeah.
So the fact that Google is going to roll out its search generative experience and put it on top of the search results that people are already using,
Right.
I think is a bigger threat than people going to OpenAI, to ChatGPT to get this information.
Yeah.
Um, by the way, Bing Chat already doing this, and Bing Chat is using GPT-4, right? So
So
isn't
so Bing Chat is adding its index into the training for its own instance of GPT.
so because
But
there's
the
new stuff in there,
Yeah, true.
right?
True.
So I mean, that's inevitable. What we have to do, what everybody has to do. So here's something that you didn't mention because it was a Google thing, but it's very relevant to OpenAI and to this
Quick
situation.
question. What were the letters something something 99?
LK-99.
Thank you.
You want to see if LK-99 is in Bing Chat?
Yep.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be if it was only 2021.
Yeah.
I promise you, it has had stuff in there from articles that we have published in the last 2 years in Bing Chat. So Bing Chat is already doing what ChatGPT's crawler says that they're going to do or is
In
doing. So
in 2023 they published preprints claiming that it acts as a room temperature semiconductor.
right. So there, I don't see this as actually that remarkable because ChatGPT is just achieving sort of parity with Bing and Google, which are
Yeah.
already doing this kind of real time crawling. And the problem is the same for publishers is the same all over the place, which is how do we stop these companies from stealing our
Mhm.
work and using it against us? And everybody should be concerned about that, whether you're in the publishing industry or not. And one thing that, so Google last week made a statement to the Australian government, which, did you hear about this, Scott? What Google said to the Australian authorities?
I saw something about it. I don't remember what they said though. It was bonkers.
So my
There.
So my article on Friday was about that, but it really could apply equally to ChatGPT, which is Google said that they would like to see the definition of fair use. They didn't say it in this many
Yeah.
words. They said something like, "We would like to see fair, support a copyright system that supports this as fair use." So they want scraping content for AI training to be considered fair use, legally speaking.
And I think they use
Which
that
some,
term too, scraping content
yes,
or
they did.
scraping the web.
Yeah. Now, so Google said that, um, but there have been other folks, including a professor I interviewed named Matthew Sag, who says that AI scraping is already fair use under the current fair use doctrine. I have a really long, detailed article about this on Tom's Hardware right now about Google saying that they want it to be fair use, and ChatGPT OpenAI, I'm sure, will make the same claim when in the various lawsuits in which they are being sued right now for AI scraping. So um, obviously, there's the question of whether it is legal, whether the laws are they want. Obviously, Google wants a law to change in its favor. Some of us might want the law to change the opposite way to make it really clear that it's not fair use. I think I don't personally. I think that the legislative solutions will probably be too slow, and what we'll see is judiciary solutions, like what precedents will courts set for whether or not AI scraping is fair use. Um, Now, obviously, one thing that Google suggested in its note to the Australian government, and they suggested this in a public blog post a month ago, is that they have a way for the industry come up with something like the robots.txt file, or maybe it is the robot.txt file, to say don't use my data for training.
Mm-hmm.
They want the training data situation to be an opt out for web people who run websites, uh, and so they want to have a standard where you can opt out. Now, I've spoken to some lawyers, including Matthew Butterick, who is the one of the lead counsels who is suing OpenAI in several. He's one of the lead counsels in several of the lawsuits, including the Sarah Silverman lawsuit
Mm.
and the one where a couple of novelists are suing OpenAI, and the one where there were some folks suing Stable Diffusion. He was on that, and GitHub lawsuit. Anyway,
Oh.
so he said that he thinks opt out, and I agree with him, is contrary to everything in copyright law.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a situation right now where companies who are own intellectual property have to opt out of every instance of it possibly being appropriated,
Right.
right? Like, imagine this scenario: I go to the bank, and behind one of the teller windows, I see a wad of cash, uh, and no one is guarding it. So I grab the cash from behind the wad of bills, and I
Mm-hmm.
start walking out of the bank, and then some police stop me and arrest me for stealing. And I say, "Oh, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. There was no sign up at the bank, and there was nobody there who said that I couldn't take the money.
Right.
Nobody told me not explicitly told me not to, so therefore I'm entitled to take this."
Right.
That is the logic that Google and OpenAI are use and are using is, hey, we can steal your stuff, we can use it as we wish, and we think it should be, if it's not already for sure legal, for us to do this. But we'll throw you a little bone, which is we'll come up with a way for you to go in and exclude yourself
Right.
from the training data.
Yeah,
I
which
think
is
there's a
insane.
couple, aside from the obvious point here about, well, it puts the onus on the copyright holder. You might say, I know someone will say this, oh, how big of a deal is it really to modify? Let's say it's just putting a no train line or something in your robots text file. Okay, let's say that that's the case, and that a lot of people, but not everybody's going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well,
What's not clear at all.
the same argument can be made. How hard is it to grab a Sharpie and go right on your front window? You're not allowed to steal my money.
Right.
It's not that difficult, but it shouldn't be required.
Right. So yeah, both true. The other thing though is, what we don't really know is what the disadvantages are of opting out of training, and whether that what that means for data that's already been sucked in. So like, let's say tomorrow they come out with a standard, and both OpenAI and, remember, companies, by the way, don't, like, I don't think there's the robot text file is legally binding, right? It's a industry standard, so
Right.
a company could
Ignore
a
it.
company could unethically scrape stuff and you'd have a hard time knowing it. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say that these larger companies, because they're public companies and there's probably, if there's a law, presumably they're going to follow it, although we know companies break the law all the time. But anyway, let's say for a second that they respect it going forward.
Sure.
So first of all, what about all the data that they've grabbed up until now? If I put that in my robot text, are they going to go back into their training data and untrain it on
Uh-huh.
all of the stuff
Right.
on my website? Am I going to, if I want them to remove it, am I going to have to go and file a removal request
For each
for
URL.
things like for each URL, for each provider? Do I have to go to OpenAI and Bing and Google and anybody else and say
Right.
and ask them to remove it? Are they obligated to do that,
Right.
to remove it, or is it only from now on? The other question is, what is this going to do to me, especially in the case of Google, in terms of my rank in Google search? Are
Mm-hmm.
they going to penalize me by
Right.
not ranking me in Google search if I block their training data? Uh, what does it mean to not be linked in SGE? Like SGE, search generative experience, which is the thing that they're putting on top of search. I think a lot of companies will not opt out because it's a they might get some clicks from it, and if
It's
they and if that is the only thing that's going, then
yeah.
you're in a worse position saying no than saying yes.
It's the answer box on steroids.
Right. But the thing is that a lot of people were, I really like, I don't love the answer box, but the answer box is very different than what Google SGE is,
Mm-hmm.
because what Google SGE is, Google Search Generative Experience is it's speaking in Google's voice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really linking back to the sources. It's sort of linking back to related sites, and they recently added some other level of linkage that's actually, like, the scariest thing is that these companies think that they're being doing a solid to publishers when they're actually just rubbing it in your face by making it worse,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
so if you go to, like, one sec, let me share this just so you can see, like, and this is directly relevant to this topic, because what Google is doing is what OpenAI is doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, I ask it for best CPU. You're going to see the Google Search Generative Experience, right? So it takes a second, but they're speeding this up, so we shouldn't assume that that's going to stop it, right? Okay, so now here's your SGE experience. You can see that my Google actual search results are not even on the first screen. I got to
Yep.
scroll down a long way to see that the best CPUs from Tom's Hardware is number one. So that's going to have an extremely negative effect on people who are in the search results. And a lot of companies, most publishers or anybody, rely on Google as their number one, as a top means of distribution. Now, Google said, wow, well, that's okay. We'll link to you. Okay, first of all, they don't choose the most relevant stuff for links, right? For SGE. Uh, their number one of their top sources is MacPaw. Okay. MacPaw does not even rank in the top like 30 for best CPU, because this isn't what people want when they're searching for best CPU, right? Uh, Nor is smallbusiness.cron.com. Like, why should that rank there rather than, say, PC Mag or Tom's Hardware, PC World, or somebody who's actually known for doing this kind of work? Uh, a few weeks ago, they added this little question, quotation mark thing, and some people said, "Oh wow, they're giving us links. It's so generous of them." Because now, if you click on this, you you have to click this, and then you see these, and then you can click them, as if that was like, wow, they're really being generous putting some links in
Woof.
there. Thanks, buddy. You gotta first of all, they sort of had this before, and now if you click this, then you click this, then you'll get transported to it. But it's not at all clear that this is a citation for this. Like, it could
Mm-hmm.
be any of these things. And um like, there's no, you know article title, so I don't know what I'm getting when I click this, right?
Right.
And who's going to do that? So, like, so but my point about the opt-in opt-out is there's going to be some folks who say, oh, if I opt out, there's no way I'm going to show up here or show up in this little tiny, one
Yeah.
person out of a billion clicks it uh, thing. So I guess I better opt in because I guess I better stay in because otherwise, all this real estate at the top of the page, I don't get to play here. So, um, so it's kind of a catch-22, right? Because you want traffic, and a lot of publishers will be like, well, even if they give me like 1% of the traffic that they gave me before, I guess that 1% is better than zero. But uh, if everybody opted out, or coincidentally, if they had to opt in and opt out was the default behavior, then OpenAI and Google would have to change their behavior
Yeah.
because they wouldn't have any of this. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it without you. Now what they're effectively saying is, "Oh, hey, you want to opt out? That's fine. I got some other garbage websites that are willing to opt in your place.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get this crappy link up here in the top corner. Maybe they'll only get 5 clicks where they used to get thousands, but hey, somebody's going to claim those 5 clicks. Don't you want it to be you?"
Yeah.
So, I mean, they'd have a more compelling argument if they actually used the quality sites there. It seems that Google SGE, what they consider to be good content and what Google search considers to be good content, are completely different things.
Right.
And uh, SGE has terrible taste and picks irrelevant, outdated, biased sources too, right? Like, you know, they'll steer you to the opinion from a store, right? Like
Right.
a medical opinion, they'll steer you to the opinion from the health insurance company or something,
Sure.
not the medical association. So like, um, so I guess my point here is like opt out is going to be a problem because other not everyone will opt out. So somebody's going to get the very minimal amount of linkage that they give. In the case of ChatGPT right now, it gives nothing,
Nothing.
no links. So there's no incentive uh, not to opt out. But for Bing and for Google, um, you know, that's the catch 22. And if ChatGPT put a couple of really low quality, low visibility links in there, we'd have the same conversation about them. They all think that the web is their personal playground and they can take whatever they want from it. And by the way, we've also seen them take things from sites that are behind a paywall. So just because you think, I mean, they wouldn't let a little thing like your paywall stop them. They will give answers from behind a pay that for things that are behind the paywall. If you click the link, you will get hit as a reader will get hit with the paywall, but they're perfectly happy to take data that's train themselves from behind the paywall, because Google and all those folks, they get the full text of the content that's behind paywalls, because
Right.
people who run paywall businesses want their content to be found in Google. They want
Right.
people to click on it and then say, hey, I better subscribe to this. So um, really, I mean, if it were up to me, pub, first of all, more people should file lawsuits to test in court whether this really is fair use or not. Um, and I think more publishers should be looking for ways, like if enough publishers blocked them, then they might take notice. It can't just be me though, right? It can't just be a couple of companies. It
Right.
has to be a lot of people. If it were opt in, then it would then then you'd be talking about who wants to opt in. Oh,
Yeah.
you want me to opt in? Then you got to pay me. We are seeing that some companies are going out and negotiating deals with with the likes of OpenAI to pay them for their content. Um, so maybe that will be a thing. Will the amount that they pay for it be sufficient to offset the massive
Right.
Revenue losses, we'll have to see.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, on the topic of Bing's up to date relevance, I asked it, "What does Tom's Hardware say about LK99?" And
Yeah.
it gave me several sentences with three different articles.
Right. So as I said, I don't feel like, I mean, for the people who are going to the the OpenAI's website and using that as their client experience, then we should block. I saw a thing about how you can actually block their crawler and robots text, and
Mm-hmm.
I forwarded it to the head of IT at my company,
Yeah,
and we'll see if they decide to block it.
sure.
But that is just one little finger in the dam. The question really is, are we going to have an opt out standard? And what is that going to mean for the people who opt out?
Yeah, for sure. It's a big topic. It's a bit of a moving target because the technology is so new and we don't know at all what we're up against. So we will definitely continue following it because it affects all of us in one way or another. So, you know, keep following. We'll see what happens next. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course, hit the notification bell because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.